Hey guys, long time no see. I decided it was high time I at least made one YouTube video. At this point, I've been breeding mice for about a year, so I wanted to share how my setup has evolved and kind of where I've settled, because I think I've finally gotten into a really good rhythm for breeding, and I found what I think is probably the best setup for what I'm doing. And one thing I've noticed is that YouTube has a lot of videos from feeder breeders and their mice, but they don't have a lot of videos from pet or show breeders and their process. So I thought it would be a good idea to share a little bit of the knowledge that I've gained from my research on breeding for pets and show. I am by no means a show breeder, though, I will say that. I have not entered shows, and pretty much none of my mice are up to what I'd say are show standards. But I do have some good mice, and I think I know at least a thing or two about the general setups for breeding both. Mostly because I've talked to breeders who do both, and I have at least a little bit of experience with the types. You great patch. My cat's next to me. Also, I look like chaos today because I've been working with my mice, and they're messy, so I don't like to wear anything that's even halfway decent. Yeah, anyways. So, without further ado, I will show you my mouse breeding setup. I don't really edit videos, and this will probably be long because my breeding setup is somewhat complex, but I'll try to simplify it at least a little bit and only share the basics. And over time, I'll try to make more videos about my setup and any advice I have. For now, we can just cover what I do basically. The reason I started breeding was primarily for feeder breeders, but I wanted to do it humanely. After I started, though, I realized mice are kind of awesome. Really awesome. So I decided I would start breeding for pets and maybe even eventually show mice as well as feeders. In fact, at this point, feeders are just kind of a side thing, you know. Any mice that don't fit up to my standards, that are aggressive or not friendly to the other mice or that are overly weak, those are usually the ones that end up as feeders for me. So these are some of my keeper females who are not currently breeding. As you can see, they are all quite friendly. Hey, no! And very naughty. Madam, this is not where you are meant to be. Catching these guys one-handed is an adventure. Alright. There we go. Okay, so in here I have a few of the mice. I think there are 5 in this top one. Either that or 4. But these are holdbacks or keepers that I have. I usually actually have quite a few more, but I have recently been downsizing. And just so you know, this is after only about 3 days. So mice make a big mess, especially when it's a surface like this. It tends to just make everything stick to it. Okay, you're not getting out again, madam. So that girl's a black tan. She carries recessive yellow and merle. She's very cute, and I like her, even though she's a little bit of a spaz. This girl is the mouse that I've probably had for the longest at this point. I've had her for 6 months. And that's right, I've been breeding for a year, but the mouse that I have that's the oldest is only 6 months. And the reason for that is I go through mice at a very rapid pace. I've been breeding very selectively for improvement and all that fun jazz in my mice. So I only keep around the mice that fit with my goals. And so far, she's actually fit with a lot of them. She's friendly. She has a really pretty color. She is a great mom. She's good with other mice. She doesn't really fight with them that much. So even when I introduce her to new mice every few weeks, when new litters get old enough, she doesn't freak out or attack them or draw blood or anything. So she's doing pretty great. I'd say that she is a mouse that I might even be able to retire and keep as pets as part of the first generation of mice that I do that with. So far, all the generations before her have had a lot more issues where they've either been too small, they've had a hard time being a mom, they've been aggressive towards new mice, they've been a little bit too anxious with other people, you know, stuff like that. So I'm being very, very selective. She still has some issues, like she's not as friendly as I'd like her to be, and she's not as friendly as my goal will be. She's also not the exact colors I'm aiming for, though Siamese is definitely part of what I'm aiming for. My end goal is actually blue Burmese. Well, that's one of them, but her babies actually have helped with that so far, so she's still helping in her own way. And for now, she's just I haven't bred her for probably 6 weeks, so she's just chilling for now. I could probably get one more litter out of her without too much issue. These 2 babies are from one of my more recent litters. Hey, you, get down. No. Naughty. Oh my gosh, you're all naughty. This is the one problem with my rack system. But, yeah, so I've got a few in here that are young, 1 or 2 that are older, and then this is my other bin full of non-breeding females currently. They're either too young or they're taking breaks. This girl's never been bred before. She's a black pied. She carries blue. And she's very cute. Isn't that right? Hello. Hello to you too. This girl is a brindle, and I'm pretty sure that she's a blue diluted brindle, but she's unmarked. So she doesn't have the classic tiger stripes that most brindles have. She's very sweet though. Most of the mice in this bin are slightly more quiet and docile, but they're very sweet nonetheless. Then I have this Siamese. She's actually a very young Siamese. She's brand new. I just barely separated her from her mother 3 weeks ago. Most of these guys have been in here for like 8 weeks, so a lot of them are ready to breed at this point. I'm just waiting to breed them till I have the space for litters. This bin is empty. Basically, this side I usually use for my grow-out females or my females that are taking a break. And then this side over here is my nurseries. So I usually can have up to 5 females at once, and I always plan ahead for the amount of females that I'm going to have and the amount of litters that I plan on having. Right now I actually have a few more litters than that, so each one of these has a mouse that is either nursing or pregnant, and then these 2 also have pregnant mice in them, because I bred a few extras since I had the extra space. My basic setup for most nurseries looks like this. And it looks pretty sparse, but this provides a lot of shade for them, so that generally reduces anxiety. The mice that I keep on the top usually have a little bit more clutter, but this girl's setup is very basic. She's shoved a lot of stuff and ripped it apart. I had a couple more decorations out here, but she's been building her nest. So all the fun stuff is in her nest right now. Isn't that right? She's very friendly. She is a chocolate, and she carries Merle, and I bred her to a black Merle, so I'm expecting Merles from her. And she's due in about 4 days. She might actually pop sooner than that, though. So, we'll have to see. And mouse nests are awesome. You can't see hers because it's very well buried, but I usually provide at least one hide that I think is good enough for them to build a nest in, and I usually put the best one for a nest in the easiest location for me to access. That way, I'm most likely to be able to do what I need to do to check on the babies every day. Look out, girl! Also, I actually really like this rack system. I barely got it in the last few weeks. I used to do bin cages like that one, and all the ones that I have out in the hall, but I recently switched because I just like the organization, simplicity, and ease that comes with the rack system. And trust me when I say we have shaved hours off of our mouse care time with this rack system, as well as improving the stuff we're able to do. If you look at this, this isn't the best example because she's kind of moved it around, but we are actually able to put a couple inches of bedding in, whereas before we were only able to put an inch or less in, because if we put any more, the water bottles would get nasty, and they'd basically make all the bedding gross. But now, we can put in a lot of super deep bedding, which means that it gets less gross, and I don't know, it's just better. I'm actually also able to put in more stuff because before I had to have a space in front of the water bottle cleared out. Now I just have to make sure there's enough room for them to reach up to the top to get the water bottle, which means that there can be stuff directly under the water bottle, such as hides, as long as they don't go up too high. This is another nursery. This mother is due in about 5 days, I think. And she's got, let's see, where did you build your nest, girl? Oh, she built it right here. But here is a very haphazard nest. She's only been in here for about a day, and she hasn't had her babies yet, so she hasn't crafted it. But when she actually has her babies, it will be a little bit more refined than that. So it's really cool to see. And I only have one mother in each nursery. The reason for that is I found they're a lot less likely to do something called baby munching, If you are just getting into breeding, baby munching is one of the most annoying and frustrating things that can happen, whether you're breeding for pets or feeders or anything else. Because let's say you have a pairing that you were very careful to select, and you worked hard on making sure that the mice were breeding well, they were healthy, they had the correct genetics that you wanted. You pair them together, and then the mom gives birth, and you're really excited. You go to check on them, and she's munched them all. It's the worst. Also, it can be kind of frightening or horrifying if you don't know much about mouse behavior. But basically, a mom will munch her babies if she gets overly anxious, if she's in unfamiliar territory, or if she doesn't feel like she is physically capable of taking care of her babies, or doesn't really understand what's happening. If it's a shock to her, then she won't really know what to do. Oh, this one came out. She's also pregnant. She's very, very pretty, but she's a bit more shy. So I probably won't be keeping her, but I'm hoping her babies are friendlier than her because I bred her to a very friendly male. Anyways, back to this. So what I found is by putting a female alone in her own cage a week before she's due with everything that she needs, including a little bit of extra protein in her diet than I would give before she was pregnant. You don't really get any baby munchers, at least if you've bred away from it. So when I was first starting, I used to breed with 2 moms in a cage because I felt bad for them getting lonely. And, a few of my mice did get lonely and anxious, but I eventually bred away from the mice that got overly anxious, and I chose my mice specifically so that they would be able to handle this sort of environment. And I also found that even with the anxious mice, if I put them alone in a cage like this, and they had a week to build their nest and kind of, slowly follow through with the instincts without another mouse bothering them, they didn't baby munch. I feel like other mice interrupt the process of figuring out what you're supposed to do with the babies, and they're like, building a nest? What? I'm supposed to be playing with my friend. But, if you make the environment just perfect for them, then they do really well. So, nesting material, good hides, no distractions, no wheels. It's perfect. Oh, also, I do not recommend putting wheels in with mothers. They can injure their babies if they have wheels in. This is another one of my nurseries. This one has an anxious mama. She's very pretty, though. And I generally cull down my litters to 6 or less, just because mother mice aren't really built to handle 15 to 18 mice at once. You're gonna end up with some mice that are failure to thrive, that you have to cull or that end up dying anyways. So if you want the healthiest, strongest mice, it's best to keep it down to 6. And I also, when I'm dealing with my mice like this, in order to make sure that everybody stays healthy, I've actually got to do checkups on the babies once a day. I know that some breeders don't do that, and you might read in 1 or 2 places, oh, don't touch the babies for 72 hours or whatever. But I actually think it's better to mess with them from day 1. Of course, you don't want to just go in there and ransack their nests and stuff like that, but making sure that the babies have good milk bands, that they're developing properly, that you have the same amount of babies every day, that everything's going well is really important. It's your responsibility as a breeder to make sure that things are going well. So I check on the babies once a day at right around the same time. I lure the moms out, gently coax them, and I try to keep the nest together as much as possible when I'm checking on them. I will actually take the mothers from their hides, and I will put them right here while I'm checking on them. And I put a bunch of seeds in here, as well as mealworms. And then the moms can play in here. They can dig for seeds. Sometimes I have a wheel in here that they can play on. It's just a nice chill zone for moms. And while they're playing, I check on their babies, and then I put their nest together as well as I can. And then they get put back in, and they get a special treat. And they're good. And that makes it so that moms all look forward to getting taken out of their cages, even if they're slightly more anxious. And it makes it so that they don't have to worry about me touching their babies, because they don't even know I'm doing it. Hello again. You're so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay. Going to close that up again. Oh, another thing. I got this rack made by somebody else, because I'm not... Well, I just don't have the time or the tools, and I don't want to buy them, because I'm I'm young and I have other things I need to do. But I did take the liberty of sanding it, and then I put on, what's it called? Cutting board oil and finisher, so that it's food safe, but it still repels water. That way if the mice run out on the top, it doesn't get gross, and it's really easy to keep clean. So yeah, the front wood at least is treated like that, and that keeps things nice. My males are kept in here. This male was in with 2 females earlier today, but they have both been separated out because they are ready. This male was bred by BB's Mousies in, let's see, Pennsylvania, I think? Hey, sir. He is very chill. This is pretty close to what show type is. He's a bit smaller, but his tail's really long. He's got a nice dark color. His ears are big, and that's really what you look for. And believe it or not, this boy is actually a hairless. He doesn't look like it because he's got hair, but he is actually velvet expression of dominant hairless, and if you look at his face, he doesn't have whiskers. Velvet expression is just one way that it shows up for dominant hairless mice, but he should be able to have some actually hairless babies. So we'll see in those 2 litters if we get any actual hairless. See ya, man. Then I've got another male in here, and then those 2 are empty. This one's actually missing one. I still need to get one more bin. And then this is my only other breeding pair that's together right now. That's the male. He's super active and attentive. He's actually very young. He's only about 6-7 weeks old. Actually, I think he's only 6. But he is already, like, in the zone for breeding. And he's very male-ish, I guess. But he's very friendly, so I don't mind how quickly he's caught on to being a male. He also has pretty nice type. His ears are a decent size. He's a big boy for only 6 weeks old. Who's a big boy? He's almost as big as the females he's been with, and they're like 12 weeks old. So, yeah. Hello, madam. I'll do another video on genetics sometime because these guys have some pretty fancy genetics. This boy is a Siamese chocolate tricolor who is trying to eat my fingernails. That girl is really weird, so I won't even try to explain what she is. And this girl is in Goody Fuzzy. She's really pretty. Sir, stay down. Stop it. Do not go crazy on me. I also try to breed my mice so that they're good with being picked up just like this. Some mice that you get will not be okay with this, and they'll freak out. I don't like that. I like to be able to at least gently manhandle my mice. If they can't handle that, then they're not going to be in my breeding setup. And let's see. What other basics do I need to cover? Well, I guess just a basic synopsis. I like to keep my females separate until they're about 8 to 12 weeks old, and then I'll breed them. Sometimes I wait till they're 12 weeks if they're smaller and they seem like they need more time. If they get really big and really robust by 8 weeks, then I'll feel okay breeding them. Some people swear by waiting till at least 12 weeks, but I found that my 8-week-old girls do just fine. Then I like to keep... these bins are about, 34 quarts. I like to keep up to 6 girls in this comfortably. I wouldn't do more than that for more than a week. So I could probably handle having 8 in here as long as I had a good enough amount of bedding, and I was spot cleaning every day, and I was making sure that their social structures were good. But I wouldn't do that for more than a week, probably, if I needed to, for some emergency reason. And then I could probably fit 2 mothers in each of these bins, and they last for the babies all the way throughout their childhood. You could probably have in the teens for the amount of babies you have in those, but I personally don't think that's good for the mom, even if you could handle that many in a bin at once. Also, housing all those babies is hard, so I usually cool down my litters before I can get up to that many, but I've had 2 moms in one of these, and I've had 1 mom in one of those, and both work just fine. For feeding, I sometimes use the top as a hopper, and they actually like that. I think that they enjoy it as like a mental challenge, so even when I put in enough food for them in their cage to eat, they'll still nom on these. But most of the time for feeding, what I'll do is I'll just count out enough for them to eat every night. So there are 5 mice in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's about 2 to 3 pellets per mouse per day. And I just feed them every night, and they're good. And then my sisters actually help me, so they check on the water bottles every night and just make sure that they're decently full. And I'll also take a sprinkle of millet, and I'll just do that through the cage bars. And I have to be careful when I'm closing this because some of my mice are idiots and they have no regard for their own safety. Be careful, dear. And for the moms, I actually also feed oats because it helps with milk production, and if their babies are getting old enough to start nibbling on things, they really enjoy oats because they're really easy to chew and they have good nutrients and they help them grow quickly and gain weight. Oats are also really good for obese mice, old mice, weak mice, mice that need a little bit of a pick-me-up. And the same thing goes for mealworms. You can either use dried mealworms or live mealworms. Both are really good for mice that need a protein pickup. And so any mice that are weak or ill do really well with that added nutrients. Hello, sir. My males don't really get any special foods. They don't really need it. All they do is hang out with ladies, and that's kind of their special reward. Hey, do not. Just because I have food on my hand does not mean you can eat me. Mice, if you have food on your hands, will try to eat it. Most of the time, it doesn't break skin or do anything to you. As you can see here, I don't even have missing skin. He did nip me. It wasn't that hard once he realized it was me. He was gentle about it. But they'll try to eat your fingernails, other stuff like that. I breed away from it, so any mouse that does not try to be careful when they try to nibble on me, I usually cull. I've had a few mice that have been non-aggressively nibbling on me just because they think my fingernails are awesome or something else, and they've actually gotten to the point where they almost break skin. And those mice are instant culls for me. But most of the time, if you squeak and look at your finger, they're like, oh, okay. And most of the time, they'll actually try to be very gentle. But I found that it's pretty much inevitable that your mouse is going to nibble on you. So if you're a mouse breeder, just keep in mind you want to breed away and train away from nibbling. Even if it's cute or something like that, or you think it's cute, just breed away from it. And then in here we have some of my basic supplies. If you're a breeder, you're going to need medications, 100%. I keep a Big Trail, that's what that is, and I also keep amoxicillin on hand. That's really good for nursing mothers where you want a milder antibiotic, and this is really good for just normal general care. I'm also probably going to get some ivermectin soon. But having those medications on hand in bulk is important. You probably want that before you start breeding. And having extra containers on hand, with or without lids, always useful. This is extra nesting material. You need it. If you're a pet owner, a breeder, anything else, you 100% need nesting material. And this is my favorite kind. It's literally just a brown paper bag, like a shopping bag. You can also just buy the brown paper cardboard bags that people use for lunches. And you just rip those up into decent sized pieces. They usually like long strips. And just give those to your mice when they need to have a nice cozy space for a nest, which is always. More for nursing mothers though. And they'll be able to build their nests and stay warm. And this stuff is great insulator, and it also moisture basically just falls right off of it. So it keeps the nests clean, dry, and warm. And then I keep extra hides in here that are weird. These are completely clean nugget boxes from McDonald's. They just fell on the floor so they couldn't be used anymore. But I was like, these are perfect for mice, might as well. So, yes, I do work at McDonald's right now, but it's a good job, in my opinion. Let's see. And then I forgot about this. This is where I keep my food. I get 50-pound bags of Missouri 6F rodent food. Great stuff. And then in here, I have the orchard grass I like to get. It's not very dusty. It's clean. The mice nibble on it a little bit, but they don't really eat it that much, so they usually use it for nests and stuff. And the bedding I get is this giant 12 cubic foot bag of kiln-dried pine shavings. And I think it's Nature's Way. I get it from IFA here in Utah Valley. I don't know what... I've heard Tractor Supply has some bedding similar to that, but if you're getting bedding in bulk for breeding mice, you want something that is kiln-dried if it's pine. Aspen also works all right, though I've heard... Every bedding will have issues, but this stuff has worked really well for me. It has to be kiln dried though, otherwise it can cause issues. I do not recommend paper-based beddings like this. This is actually from when I very first started because I didn't know. But this stuff stinks so bad, so fast. It's expensive, it's annoying, it's the worst. This is probably the only brand that I even recommend getting though. And I recommend only getting the undyed, unscented stuff because everything else, I don't know, it looks nasty, it smells nasty, and it can be harmful if it's scented. But this stuff is a good brand. Katie's a decent brand. There's another brand out there, I forgot what brand it was, but it's likely to carry mites in it, and some of my mice actually came from somebody who was using that, and they had mites and I had to treat them, and it was super annoying. So I also get birdseed. I don't usually recommend anything with corn kernels in it because they can cause issues, but I found that this brand of birdseed specifically has not very much corn, and the corn is cracked, and it's actually done okay for my mice. They haven't really had any serious issues, but it is a risk. And I usually actually take out as much corn as I can, just because it's not the best. This is what oopsies. This is the kind of wheel I use. They can fit into these bins, which is awesome. So if you are a feeder breeder or a pet breeder who wants to be able to have a nice rack system that's really easy to use, or bin cages that aren't super tall and bulky and annoying, then, and you still want to use wheels, these are perfect. So for my mice that are taking breaks, or just my females who aren't breeding, I always give them a wheel, and I usually give 3 hides. So these guys, perfect example of that kind of thing where I have a variety of stuff for them to use. And they love having a wheel. Get your heads down in there, guys. Come on. Do you want to lose your heads? Stop it. Oh my gosh, everybody. You can see this is the one problem with breeding mice that are somewhat friendly. They become problem children. Get in there, guys. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love you. Please stop. Okay, there we go. So yeah, if you're breeding mice, breed for mice that do that kind of thing. They should not be scared of you. Hello. These guys are a little bit more nervous, but they're still pretty good. I'm going to be breeding them to friendlier mice to get better temperaments. That's the thing, is there's always ways to improve your mice. And that's kind of the goal, is to select pairings that bring out the best from both parents into the babies. And there's one more area that I think I'll show you. This is where I keep extra bin cages that I'll probably end up selling from when I had an all bin cage set up. It was great, but it took us about 2 hours longer to clean everything. But now the racks are just super simple. These we use on cage cleaning day, so they're just 2 sets of plastic drawers. We put net bedding in here, and then we put these on my desk right there. And then we will just take out the mice, and each cage of mice will get their own box to go in. And then we'll clean their cages, bring them back all at once, put them together, put the mice from here back into their cages. And it makes it go way faster because, you know, we're able to take tons of mice out at once to clean. And then right over here, we have quarantine. It's a different airspace. It's further away from them. Right now, I only have 2 females in quarantine. They're both pregnant. They both came from different breeders, and they both have respiratory illnesses, which is really annoying. I don't know if I'll be able to keep them or their babies, depending on how bad it is. I've already tried treating them. They haven't really gotten worse, but they haven't exactly gotten better. They've just stayed in a weird limbo, so I'm thinking it might be one of those situations where it just becomes a chronic issue. But we'll see. And then sometimes I steal my cats' food for moms, because they love it. It's organic, very natural, few ingredient cat food. High quality, no dyes. Lots of protein. Good stuff. I recommend it. But, yeah, that's my breeding setup. I can talk more about different kinds of breeding setups and specifics, things that don't necessarily have to do with my personal breeding setup in later videos to help people make decisions, but for now, I figured it was a good thing to cover. I apologize again for the length, but hopefully it provided some useful information for anybody out there who's thinking of breeding mice for themselves or for their neighborhood if they're thinking of breeding pets. My mice are generally very healthy. They're very sweet. They deal with a lot of annoying behavior. They're good with little kids. I've sold to a lot of people in the area who are looking for pet mice, and my setup, believe it or not, is better than any pet store in the area. I've gone to all of the pet stores in my area to see the care and quality that the mice receive there, and my mice by far live in the least crowded, least dirty, most interactive, fun setup that there is, even though I breed at this scale, where I can have up to 7 litters going at once, and I can have, I don't know, I can have probably up to 100 mice in here comfortably. So yeah, you can do a lot with this setup. You can treat your mice to wheels and toys, and you can give them a lot of fun. You can keep them healthy. You can use watering systems like that, or you can use water bottles. Yeah, you can do a whole ton of stuff. So if you're looking to get into mice, I definitely recommend something like this. But this might not be exactly what you need, so that's why I'll be going over other stuff in later videos. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you later.